Is the world ending on November 13th, 2026? Did a scientist really predict the collapse of humanity decades ago? Why did his math point to one exact date? And why are people suddenly talking about it again right now? Was this a warning? A coincidence? Or the moment humanity reaches its limit? Stay with me, because the truth behind this prediction is far stranger than you think. In 1960, a scientist sat down to study numbers. Not rumors, not prophecies, not religion. Numbers. Cold, hard data about human population, birth rates, death rates, growth patterns. He wasn't trying to predict the end of the world. He was trying to understand something much simpler: how fast humanity was growing. At the time, the world population was rising faster than ever before. Every decade, the number of people on Earth was increasing at a record pace. Cities were expanding. Families were getting larger. Medicine was improving. People were living longer. From the outside, it looked like progress. But from a mathematical perspective, it looked like acceleration. And acceleration always raises a dangerous question. What happens if it never stops? So this scientist began collecting data. He looked at population records from ancient civilizations. He studied the Roman Empire, medieval Europe, early industrial societies, modern nations. He gathered information from thousands of years of human history. Then, he plotted those numbers on a graph. At first, the curve looked normal. Slow growth, gradual increase, nothing alarming. But then something changed. The curve started rising faster, and faster, and faster, until it became almost vertical. That's when he realized something important. This wasn't normal growth. This was runaway growth. The kind of growth that cannot continue forever. His name was Heinz von Foerster, a physicist, a systems scientist, a man who believed that numbers could reveal the hidden patterns of the world. He worked with computers at a time when computers were still new, machines that filled entire rooms, machines that processed information slowly compared to today, but powerful enough to analyze trends. And when he ran the numbers through his model, something unexpected happened. The math didn't just show growth, it showed a limit, a boundary, a breaking point. In mathematics, this kind of moment has a special name: a singularity. A point where a system reaches the edge of what is possible, where the rules begin to change, where the future becomes unpredictable. So he kept calculating, checking, rechecking, verifying the data. And every time he ran the model, the result was the same. The system would reach its limit on one exact day, Friday, November 13th. That date would later become famous, but at the time, it was just a number, a mathematical conclusion, a theoretical endpoint. Not the end of the world, not an apocalypse, not destruction. A turning point. When the research was published, the scientific community paid attention. Some researchers were fascinated, others were skeptical, many were curious. Because the idea was both simple and unsettling. If population growth continues accelerating forever, eventually, the system must break. Not because of magic, not because of prophecy, because of mathematics. No system can grow forever, not a population, not an economy, not a civilization. And yet, the public heard something very different. They heard the word doomsday. They saw the date. They imagined disaster. Fear spread faster than facts. Newspapers used dramatic headlines. Writers speculated about collapse. People wondered whether humanity was running out of time. But the scientist himself never claimed the world would end. Not once. He explained that the date represented a moment of change, a shift in direction, a transition from one phase to another. And in many ways, that's exactly what happened. As the decades passed, the world began to adapt. Birth rates started falling. Families became smaller. Education expanded. Women entered the workforce. Cities became more crowded. Technology improved. And slowly, the growth curve began to bend. Not collapse, not explode, adjust. Humanity changed its behavior, just as the model predicted it would. So why are people talking about this prediction again today? Because the date is getting closer. What once felt like a distant future now feels uncomfortably near. And whenever a mysterious date approaches, curiosity grows. Especially when that date comes from science. Especially when it comes from math. But here's where the story becomes even more interesting, because the original prediction wasn't really about population. It was about limits. Limits to growth, limits to resources, limits to systems. And today, we are facing new kinds of limits. Energy, water, food, housing, climate, technology, artificial intelligence. Different challenges, same principle. Think about how fast the world is changing. New technologies appear every year. Information spreads instantly. Economies rise and fall overnight. The pace of change keeps accelerating, just like population once did. And whenever acceleration continues long enough, a turning point becomes inevitable. Not destruction, transformation. November 13th, 2026 might not be the end of the world, but it could be a symbolic moment, a reminder, a checkpoint, a date that forces humanity to reflect on its future. A date that reminds us that growth has consequences, because every system eventually reaches a limit. Forests, rivers, cities, civilizations, even technology. And when that limit arrives, change becomes unavoidable. So the real question is not whether the world will end. The real question is whether we are prepared to adapt, prepared to evolve, prepared to rethink how we live. History shows that humanity is remarkably resilient. We survive crises. We invent solutions. We rebuild after disasters. But resilience requires awareness, and awareness requires understanding. That's why this prediction still matters, not because it predicts doom, but because it highlights responsibility. Responsibility for how we grow, how we consume, how we plan for the future. Responsibility for the choices we make today. So when November 13th, 2026 finally arrives, the world will likely look much like it does now. Cities will be busy. People will go to work. Children will go to school. Life will continue. But beneath the surface, something may be changing. A shift in priorities, a shift in awareness, a shift in direction. And that shift may be the true meaning of the prediction. Not an ending, a beginning. Now I want to ask you something. Do you believe November 13th, 2026 is just another date? Or could it mark the moment humanity starts a new chapter? Tell me what you think. Because the future is not written in stone. It's written in the decisions we make every day. And if you enjoy uncovering hidden truths about science, history, and the future, subscribe to The Truth About, because the next story might change how you see the world.